Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we're reviewing Transformers Studio Series 86 Voyager Class Scrapper. Scrapper here is the leader of the Decepticon Constructicons, and he turns into a payloader, which is honestly really nice. I like this. Let's say the bucket is able to go up quite nicely, go down nicely. Can also just move on its own separate hinge for transformation stuff, but you know, it's nice to have the option there. Alt mode rolls nicely, because all of the wheels are pinned. All four of them. Which is cool. We don't usually get pinned wheels. We've been getting those a little more recently, which I've been liking a lot. But it's also just really cool to see that we're getting more pinned wheels. I think I mentioned this in previous videos before, but pinned wheels do allow the figure to roll much more freely, which is awesome. So yeah, looking at Scrapper's alt mode though, it's neat. I'd compare it with the KO that I used to have of Devastator, but that thing broke pretty easily too. I dropped it by accident, and like half the Constructicons that were on it just kind of just blew up. I was like, oh. But then that gave me the motivation to buy these, so I did. And now I have the whole team. 2 years later and down almost $300. Because buying I couldn't find the rest of the Constructicons in person. Only one I could find was Scrapper and Bone Crusher. Besides that, all the other ones took forever to find. Let alone for a good price. And even then, a good price was still terrible. Because scalpers! I wished nightmare. But yeah, Scrapper here is solid. The alt mode is a little wider than I kind of wanted. A little hollowed here too. You can see my finger through there. Oh, hello finger. You can see part of Gunter's portrait through him. Just like that. Look at that. Yeah, I don't like how hollow it is. Or I guess just how gappy. It's not hollow, it's just really gappy. Underside of the alt mode is quite, well, nice. It's tidied up real nicely. But this figure does borrow a lot of cues from the Combiner Wars figure. And that rule, well, what I'm saying here applies to a lot of the other Constructicons, with the exception of Long Haul and Mixmaster, with those two being almost completely new molds from the ground up. But the rest of these figures just borrow a lot of engineering and just kind of like sculpt work a little bit from the Combiner Wars set. You know, they did add articulation with these though, so I do appreciate that, which we will go into in a little bit. But first things first, we gotta go over the accessories, because Scrapper here comes with 3 of them. We have 2 components that combine together to make the giant Devastator gun, and Scrapper's gun, which looks lovely. So yeah, these are actually all compatible with his alt mode. There's these little tabs on the side. They could plug into this slot here, and then these slots right here go connects with this tab right here. So that just plugs in there. Oh, get over here. Then we'll take this gun right here, and I just plug it into the side of that. And that's just how all of his weapons store on him. We're going to leave this on for a little bit, though, because we're going into size comparison. So we'll place you there. Bring in Deluxe Class Wheeljack. Comparing the two together. Scrapper is a Voyager Class figure that is deluxe scaled, because a lot of his budget comes from the heavy-duty ratchet joints that are used in him for the ankle transformation for Devastator. So that's where that comes in. Next up is Voyager Class Road Hauler, the unofficial 7th member of the of Devastator. I think there is actually like a lore thing in there going on about it, because in War Dawn, I believe, when Megatron was built by the Constructicons, I believe we saw a repaint of Grapple into this, into this green crane bot, because they didn't want to use the model of Hook at the time. Or maybe Hook was there and they just added the... I can't remember the whole thing behind it, but there's a thing behind it where it was just like a green grapple, and then they took the name from Grapple's original name, Road Hauler, or Hauler, I think is what Hound called him. Not Hound, Cliff Jumper, back in G1 during those first few episodes. Next up is our leader class, Sludge. If you guys know, Sludge has some correlation with the Constructicons from the 86 film, but you'll get that shown off in Devastator's video. Until then, though, we'll just relax and check this out. And next up is 86 Commander Optimus. Push him back, put there, and that gives us our size comparison for Scrapper to Optimus. And before we end comparisons, we'll bring in the rest of Scrapper's Constructicons. Now, I won't be doing the robot modes in this video, because I'm lazy, I won't lie to you. But we will still bring all of their alt modes up here, just for comparisons. Then get long haul back here. The trailer separated. Okay, thanks, man. Thanks a lot, buddy. But yeah, looking at everything here, Scrapper looks nice with his team, honestly. I like how these all look. And I'm happy I got him. I'm just a little disappointed that for a good chunk of this team I had to spend more than retail on him. But with that all being said, it's time to get into the transformation. So first thing I want to do is remove these parts here. Separate the gun from the Devastator guns. We'll just put this here for the moment. And the first thing you want to do is come to the side of the alt mode and pull right here. This will have everything right back here. Shift up. Next thing you want to do is flip this bucket back and kind of just pull it outward. Wait, do we? No, we don't pull that outward. We just flip it back like this. Then you repeat the arm thing on this side. You untab this piece. Then you pull up and back, like so. Then flip the forearms forward and flip out Scrapper's hands, just like this. Then you come to the bottom, untab the underside of Scrapper's alt mode, then flip out his feet. Then come back here, flip these out and down, then collapse that all together, and split the legs. And you're almost done. You come to the front, pull down the chest plate, flip up the head, collapse that, give him his gun, and now we're done. Just like that, we have 86 Scrapper in hand. Scrapper's transformation is extremely simple, and as you saw, borrowed a lot of cues from that Combiner Wars Scrapper, from that Titan class box set. So yeah, Scrapper here looks lovely though. With these figures being separate releases, they're able to do a lot more than they were able to with the Combiner Wars set. Such as, actually good paint. The paint's a lot more durable. They've toned down the green a bit and made the green plastic feel good. The plastic on these guys just feels good. My main complaint from what I've heard about the Combiner Wars Devastator was his plastic didn't feel solid or durable, and he was really rickety. While with these separate releases, I've been hearing how the plastic feels much better. And if the KO was anything to go off of, yeah, this material feels much superior to the KO's material, but that's also to be expected. The KO goes the cheapest route while still giving a decent enough product where people would want to buy it. So yeah, Scrapper here looks great though. I really like the head sculpt on this guy. Looks nice. You have some lovely silver accents on the forehead, mouth plate, along with this really nice red visor. The silver on the chest has chipped and smudged a little bit, unfortunately, but besides that, looks great. The silver on the thighs is honestly almost perfect, though they have suffered some chipping on the edges here, as you can see, but it seems to only be on... That's one issue I suffer with this figure. This thigh piece just likes to keep coming off when I use the thigh swivel. You know, I turn it a bit, there you go, it just pops right off. Actually, it's starting to get cracks. That's new. I don't like that. How's the other thigh doing? Okay, the other thigh's not doing that. Good. Yeah, this thigh does that, though. I hate this. I sometimes just mount it like that, which granted looks absolutely terrible, but if I have him like in the background of a display, I sometimes will do that. Just so I don't have to worry about the thigh just popping right back off. Look at the figure, though. Looks great. He has some asymmetry right here, with these bulb pieces being flipped and actually being completely different. Along parts of the shins, these square panels right here, being completely different tooling as well. Along through side panels right here being different. Rest of the figure does not share this asymmetry. Actually, that's a lie. The chest plate also does asymmetry detailing, but that's to be expected. There's not two chests on this guy. It's going to be different. Though I guess usually it is symmetrical. Especially looking at all these other figures around me. Yeah, their chests are symmetrical. Huh. A6 Scrappy here, though. Looks nice. I like the shade of green that they've used. On camera, this green looks a lot more pale than it actually is. It's a lot more vibrant in person. It's something that you'd have to see in person to properly understand. But it is not as neon or radioactive looking as the original Devastator. I hated that shade that they've used. So seeing this much more, like, still G1 shade, just not as explosive, I suppose. It's nice. I like it. One thing I don't like is how the bucket sits here. I hate this. I don't like this at all. So what I prefer to do is I prefer to lower it like this. This does make the backpack a little further out, but it also just looks a lot more appealing to me than having it up all the way like this. And, you know, the backpack is much more, it's just as far out, just higher up, but it still looks terrible to me. So I do just prefer having it like this, just so it's easier to handle. For me personally, it's easier. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say about Scrapper. He's cool, you know, I like him. So, articulation time? Because why not? Head could look up this far, down this far, side to side, 360 at the neck because it is on a ball joint. Arms can go out that far. Rotate at the shoulder. Bicep swivel. 90-degree elbow bend on this side and 90 degrees on the other side for transformation. There is no wrist swivel on this figure, which is an unfortunate downside. But that's also just because it's on this thin plate here. Well, I guess not really thin, but it's on a plate, so there's not enough real room to incorporate. Because this plate piece that fills in the top here and the fist, it's all one piece. So there, you just can't. There is no waist swivel, but that's also because of just how strong this ratchet is. That if they put a waist swivel there, there's a really high chance that could just snap. Which sucks a lot, but I understand why they did it. But I feel like if the ratchet being so strong was the issue, I feel like they should have used a ratchet like Mixmasters here. Because actually... Oh, one second. Let me transform this guy a bit, then I'll show you. Alright, I put him into leg mode just because it's quicker. If you hear here... Well, if you listen here, there you go. You see how easily that moves, while on Scrapper here, it's harder to move it. It's much more dense. It's a much stronger ratchet. While on Mixmaster here, it's a softer, easier to move ratchet, which I prefer this ratchet. But we'll talk about Mixmaster more in his own video, so for the time being, we'll just put him off to the side. Can't forget his gun. There you go. But back to the rest of the figure. Legs can go back this far on Scrapper and forward this far. And legs can also go out that far. 360 rotation at one of the thighs. The other one just pops off. So, yeah. I don't think I've seen this issue with anyone else, but it seems to be an issue with my copy. So, yeah. Figure has exactly 90 degrees at the knee. Feet can go forward, just like so, because of transformation. And there's an extreme ankle pivot. Granted, it looks unnatural at that angle, but if we go like about here, this looks quite natural. Natural pivot, kind of like that. But, you know, further you go, the more it looks. So, yeah. But with that being said, size comparison time. So, we'll put Scrapper right in the middle, like so. And we'll get Monkey D. Luffy here from One Piece. And 86 Cup for a deluxe scale. Comparing the three figures here, obviously Luffy isn't much of a scale to go off of, but comparing Cup to Scrapper, Cup actually is slightly taller than Scrapper, even though Scrapper's at that Voyager price. But as mentioned, his pricing comes from the new this heavy-duty ratchet joint, and I suppose the extra combiner stuff here. I don't know how I missed that twice. But the extra combiner stuff here for Devastator. So, you know, I guess that counts towards the budget a bit. Just a bit. But it does. Whoa. But it still does. So, yeah. Snag you guys off. Move you to the side. And for a fellow Voyager class, we'll bring in 86 Shockwave. Comparing the two here, you could definitely tell the difference in size. And honestly, just yeah, look at that. Shockwave is your traditional Voyager. A lot of his budget goes into his height and parts count, while this guy isn't parts count as it is just parts used. He uses larger pieces like the bucket, but also larger pieces, or I guess metal pieces, because of the ratchet and all that. And that all requires its own set of parts too, so maybe that's where the budget comes from. I'm not entirely sure, but I can make a guess. Getting our two leaders in here, 86 Megatron and 86 Grimlock. First of all, I've got to angle the camera up. There we go. Comparing the three figures here, you can get a kind of feel for how Devastator might look size-wise with how Scrapper is here. But, you know, ta-da! Looking at that. Looks nice. I like it. Next up, we have 86. Oh, don't want to break my cherry blossoms. Next up, we have is 86 Ultra Magnus compared to Scrapper. Comparing the two, yeah. Magnus kind of not dwarfs him, but it's like a big brother with little brother situation here. Magnus is definitely the bigger one. Which is also expected. Magnus at release was about $85 to $89, while Scrapper here at release was $35. Now, those are pretty large differences in pricing. So, yeah. Snagging Magnus out of here, putting you in the middle now. Now, for final thoughts on 86 Scrapper. If you're looking to complete Devastator, obviously you're going to want this figure. But if you're also just looking for a kind of a neat figure to just mess around with, then I would highly recommend this guy. He's neat. He gets the job done for kind of your grunt Decepticons if you're not aiming to complete Devastator. But yeah. Granted, I wouldn't pay prices that people are charging for him now, because 86 Devastator is pretty hard to complete. And with Scrapper, well, being the leader of them and one of the legs, he's definitely much higher up in desirability compared to like Bone Crusher or Scavenger. Yeah, they're arm bots, but they aren't keeping the whole thing up. Unlike Scrapper here, who is. So yeah, with that being said, I'd recommend the figure as a good grunt figure, but also just as, well, a combiner limb. He's solid. He's not perfect, but he does still get the job done. He's fun, poses quite well for his limitations, and feels great to handle, actually. He is honestly a great figure to handle, and I would recommend him just on that. Because he was the very first out of the Devastator figures that I got. And honestly, he's the reason why I bought the rest, because of just how much I enjoyed him. He's simple. He's simple, and he's sweet. But that's about it. So, until next time, I'll see you guys then. Take care, and goodbye.